Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for the solar eclipse in Aquarius, which happens to be a very powerful new moon at 27 degrees of Aquarius. This is happening on February 15th at 3:05 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's my time zone. If you live in Europe, tack on about, 6 or 7 hours, probably around 6 hours, I would think, in most places. And if you're in Australia, you're on your own. So anyway, a new moon is when the sun and moon are at the same exact degree. And although here it says they have like you've got the 27 degrees and then you've got the, the minutes and seconds or something like that. And they're off by like 6 seconds. So there you go. But in addition to that, the new moon is a period of time when we are planting seeds. Since this is a solar eclipse, we're talking about being a change agent. And so it's going above and beyond a typical new moon. And it's almost out of our control to some degree because the eclipses have kind of a faded quality to them. Okay. So we need to let go and let God, but also just stop resisting the change that comes in and welcome it and say, bring it on. I want change in my life. I want something new, a breath of fresh air. And so I am bringing into this reading a book that I have mentioned before. It's by the late Jane Spiller, who was an astrologer. And this book is called Moon Astrology, Using New Moon Power Days to Change and Revitalize Your Life. And so she offers intentions that you can set for each of the new moons of the year. And for the new moon in Aquarius, she's talking about 11th house keywords, buzzwords, because I'll just read what she has for the topics at hand. Inventive solutions, seeing the future, humanitarian attitudes, revelations, humor, friends, avoiding excessive detachment. And by the way, one thing that was very tantalizing to me, I was just kind of going through this book, and she actually mentioned she has like a little chapter called Releasing Past Karma Through the Power of Wishing. And she goes, she starts off this chapter by saying, in addition to using new moon power days to attract what you want, you can also use them to rid yourself of unconscious habits and behaviors that have been working against you. These strong patterns, which often keep us from attaining the desires of our heart, can be seen as past life or karmic, quote-unquote, residue. They are habitual responses that work to our advantage in past lives and or early childhood, but are detrimental in our current adult life. These patterns block our happiness at every turn, yet we will continue to enact them until we realize what's going on and break their hold on our behavior. And while I was saying that, I was like, oh my God, because usually with new moons, I think of planting seeds and beginning new things, not about trying to get rid of habits, because usually the things that I've read have talked about the full moon for that, and maybe a lunar eclipse for that. So I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And the reason is because from what I understand, Aquarius, having a moon in Aquarius, because the moon connects to health issues, is a great time to break bad habits. And actually, when I was consulting the farmers market, they do talk about that whenever the moon transits through the sign of Aquarius, that's a time to break bad habits, but you can almost do it like suddenly, because Aquarius is, ruled by Uranus, so it has that kind of erratic or suddenness to its energetic makeup. And I guess that's why it's great for that, because you don't have to deliberate. It's like instantaneous. So this is really cool, because what is happening now, and I'm going to look on my ephemeris just to kind of make sure that I've got this straight here. Well, actually, it's interesting because the transiting north node at the time of this eclipse is at 14 degrees of Leo. And the eclipse seasons connect to the north node and the south node, okay? So the south node is karma. That means the south node is in Aquarius. And it's not, I don't think it's going to be, it's not going to be a conjunction with, the south node is not going to be in a conjunction with the eclipse, because it'll only be at 14 degrees of Aquarius, but still it's in the same sign. And so these karmic patterns are being played out. So if you have some kind of addictive tendencies, maybe this is a time to really be conscious of them and want to release them. Just like we feel a sense of release when we have been doing something so long without thinking. And it's really, sometimes these habits really are affecting us negatively, and we're not realizing it on the conscious level. And if you can just have that moment of clarity and just let go of it, that would be wonderful. But I'm going to just talk very briefly about some of what she mentions as the intentions you can set, but also the other aspects of this particular day of the new moon. So one thing that she is talking about is the idea of friendships, okay? And I would just say, and about networking. So for people who, let's say that you are very shy and you feel isolated. Some people are shy and they're introverts and they're perfectly happy. I'm one of those people. And yes, I do have a partner, and he and I would call ourselves best friends, but that's all I need. I don't need like a big social circle, but I do workshops sometimes, spiritual workshops, and I've been in situations where I can get a little bit of that connection with others without having to commit to it full time, because if you're an introverted person and you make a friendship, it can be really awkward when it's like, I liken it to a tennis match where you might call them up, and then it's like they call you up, and then it's your turn to call them up, and you have to go out and you got to do these things, and you may be happy, content just to getting together once a month or every other month, and they have these inner expectations of going out once a week or something like that, and it can feel very frustrating because you know how people are, that they get offended and they feel like you're dissing them if you don't automatically want to go out all the time. So it's about being friendly, but you have to tailor it to your own needs. But there are some people out there who have straight up anxiety about being in any type of social situation. So what I recommend for you is something that I do, because I'm not that type of person who goes out, and I don't have a problem talking to people. It's just that I still find it awkward to be in those situations. Go to some kind of a group where you can you share a passion. So like a meetup type of group where they have it for every topic under the sun. And there's still a structure to it where it's not so open-ended and you have to feel like you're kind of being alone until somebody approaches you. I totally get that feeling, of being at a party and you just can't bring yourself to start a conversation with someone. It just feels really weird. So try, vow that you're going to do that. This is only if that's something that you feel you need to do. If you enjoy being alone and you feel totally fulfilled with that, then you're your own person. You can't go by anybody else. But there are some people who feel isolated and they would like to not be, and so take baby steps and do things that don't require too much interaction. A class is really a great way, like in a community college or something, where let's say you take, if you've always wanted to learn how to do watercolor paintings, just go there and you don't have to feel awkward that you have to start some big conversation, but you can at least get that sense of being in a room with other people and not feeling the sense of isolation, and you're all doing the same thing, so you feel that sense of connection. And this is a big one, objectivity, okay? In other words, being able to see different points of view. Another big Aquarian thing is, what's that word? Egalitarian, which basically means that you feel everyone, that there's no pecking order in life. And I am totally that kind of person. I have Venus in Aquarius, and I uphold that ideal because it's not like a fake thing where you're condescending to somebody because you're so great. And even though you're so above the other person, you're going to deign to give them the time of day, and aren't you great, and patting yourself on the back. I'm talking about talking to everyone that you meet in the same way. When I worked in a school district, I would talk to the principal the same way I talked to the janitor, and I really meant it. It wasn't anything. And that, I think that who got pissed off was the principal, because I was supposed to grovel, I guess. And that's the kind of thing. It's like you're not groveling and you're not condescending. You're not patronizing to another person. And that's actually a very good thing to do, too. And if you're talking to children, you don't dumb down. Maybe a little bit of a sing-song voice, but not the complete treating them like they don't have a brain in their heads. Also, embracing your waving your freak flag, being who you really are, and those quirks that are so quirky about you, not hiding them, but actually flaunting them. And this is something that Aquarians tend to do, like Sun in Aquarius, maybe Aquarius rising. They tend to like to poke their finger at others, give them a little bit of, provoke them with their nonconformist ways. Janis Joplin had Aquarius rising, and she dressed like, in the uniform of a hippie. But was Janis Joplin really a hippie? She really, in a lot of ways, was not a hippie. She had, she didn't like, she preferred alcohol, to psychedelics. She was very, she was a Capricorn, but she was very close to Aquarius too. And her moon was in Cancer, and I think she was kind of an old-fashioned gal, actually, at heart. But just that wanting to be your own person. So many people are conformists. I see people on the street. Everyone has a black car. Everyone has a gray car. Everyone has a beige car. I mean, beige. Wear purple. I have this like, I don't know what color you'd call it, like lilac colored fleece jacket. And, people don't always, I think, appreciate lilac jackets. And I don't really care. I mean, it's great. It's great to grow older when you're a woman because you don't care anymore. You know, when you're younger, it's like, oh my God, I have to wear certain clothes and everything. So, it's really kind of freeing to be able to be yourself and to embrace those things about you that are a little bit eccentric and not try to hide them. So the last thing I wanted to say about these traits is the issue of your intuitive faculties. You know, do you have this sixth sense? Because Aquarius is actually considered a psychic sign. We all have psychic abilities, but some signs, like the water signs, really it's part of their everyday way of being because they're feeling signs. But Aquarius, which is a mental sign, is an air sign, is associated with lightning fast insights. And so do you value your intuitive hits? And likewise, being inventive. You know, invention is a form of creativity, but it's more on the level of something that is practical, that can help, that can improve your life. And I would use the word resourceful in addition to this, of learning how to make do with what you have. I'm not talking about so you can save money, but a lot of times I have kind of jerry-rigged things to work for me, and I'm not some mechanical genius or anything. And other people are like helpless, where like something isn't working properly, and they'll just go out and buy a new thing instead of thinking, what can I use to make this work for me still? And just having kind of that mindset of wanting to create, but not just works of art, but things that can better your life. So let's look at some of the aspects on this day of the solar eclipse. We're going to have a situation with conjunctions from the sun to Mercury and the moon to Mercury. And, you know, this isn't earth-shattering because Mercury is going to be very close to the sun usually anyway. But that enhances the mental kind of a vibe of Aquarius and can make people a lot more chatty Cathy-esque, where they are wanting to touch base with others. And this could be a very sociable time, okay? Very social time is probably a better grammar. And also conjunctions between the sun and moon to Venus, believe it or not, because Venus is actually at 6 degrees of Pisces on this day. But because the sun and moon are at 27 Aquarius, this is an example of how conjunctions can happen when they're not in the same sign. You have one planet that's in an early degree, other planet that's in a late degree, and they can still be a conjunction. All that matters is the orb, the degree of difference between the two signs involved. So I think this can be a good manifestation period. You know, anytime you have a new moon, there's that manifestation. So with the solar eclipse, you have to see where it lands in your chart to get a better idea of how it's going to impact you directly. But the thing that may be kind of happening, there's some squares to Jupiter, actually. So a square is a challenging aspect. The sun, moon, and Mercury are all challenging Jupiter because Jupiter is in Scorpio. And these other entities are in Aquarius, which these two signs, of course, square one another. And so what can happen is that there is a lot of exaggerated feelings going on. You may not have thoughts that are practical. You may be kind of like over promising, over overdoing in general. And there may be kind of a festive atmosphere. I was going to say, the trick the universe played on us this year is that the solar eclipse is happening 2 days after Fat Tuesday. Wouldn't it have been great if we could have had the solar eclipse on Fat Tuesday so that you can let go of those bad habits and then Lent begins, Ash Wednesday. And but no, this is actually happening on Thursday. So hopefully those people who participate in Lent will not start feeling like partying a couple days after Fat Tuesday, a day after Ash Wednesday. So yeah, I mean, it feels like it's going to be very festive. Venus and Mars will be squared off. And so there could be, maybe there's going to be relationship issues. I think if there are, it's going to be with this idea of freedom, because that's what Aquarius is really all about, is you don't own me, you can't tell me what to do, and you can't possess me. So this does not have to do with gender when I say these things. When I say you don't own me, I'm not talking about just I was thinking of that Leslie Gore song, but I'm not talking about women towards men. It's really, when you think of the word possessiveness, that's a partner who looks at their mate as an object, really, in a lot of ways. Because if you believe that you own someone, that you can determine who they talk to, what they're doing, then you're not really respecting their humanity as well as their individuality. And so that's what this is about. This is about celebrating individuality and being yourself. And by the way, individuality can mean that you are a person of color who also is conservative, and that somebody who calls themselves progressive doesn't lecture to that conservative and tell them that they are brainwashed. You know what I mean? So it works both ways. You can't say that only one type of way of being is progressive, or being individualistic. Everyone has the right to be who they are, and these labels that we put on ourselves, or I don't put it on myself, but other people try to put it on us, those are exactly what Aquarius opposes. So anyhow, I hope that you're looking forward to this as much as I am. And happy solar eclipse, everyone. Take care. Bye.